Well, we fell apart just in time. You say at least it was worth the try.
Welcome to this video. If you are new here, my name is Blake, and if you're one of my old followers, thank you. I know there's only like 2 of you, but you're appreciated. So this video is going to be my trying to conceive journey through 2020. A lot has happened for me in 2020, and it's been a couple months since I've updated any of my followers. I have updated a little bit more on Instagram, but overall I've just been a little bit silent because a lot has happened within the last 4 months that has been difficult for me. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you get some answers, especially if you're trying to conceive and you're looking to others to kind of see what their journey is. Okay, so let's start at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, myself and my husband decided that we were gonna hardcore try to have another baby. So in January, I started tracking my ovulation. I started making sure I was eating a little bit better. My diet has never been the best, but I also have started managing my symptoms for my endometriosis. And by managing, I mean paying more attention and trying to be a little bit more proactive when I felt like a flare-up was coming. This is hard to explain. I tried to be more proactive in the sense of eating better, getting more sleep, and not letting my anxiety control how my endometriosis made me feel. It's a better way to explain it. So in January, obviously we did not get pregnant. In February, I was still tracking my ovulation, and I was getting better at knowing when it was gonna happen, just because January was like my trial run. And in February, I actually ended up having a chemical pregnancy, and I knew it was a chemical pregnancy because I was getting positive tests. I started testing very early on in my DPO. There's a video, I will link it down below, I believe. I'm not sure if I recorded that one. I've recorded a couple different ovulation tracking videos, but I digressed. So anyway, I knew it was a chemical pregnancy because I was getting positive tests early on in my 2-week wait. And then about 3 to 4 days past when my period was due, I started bleeding, and the little mom med tests were getting fainter and fainter and fainter. So obviously that brings us to March, and that's when I started hardcore tracking, like tracking multiple times a day, making videos for you guys, and making sure I really knew what was going on with my body, because my endometriosis, I'm not on a regular cycle like most other people. And then April came, and May, and same thing, I still wasn't pregnant. And then in June, I started to get really, really sick. And that's when I knew that my endometriosis was getting really bad again. And I had actually traveled to Arizona. I needed to see my doctor because he is located in Arizona, and I jumped back and forth between Arizona and Missouri to get things done. And I ended up being put on a bunch of medication. I was on a bunch of medication. In between there, I took letrozole, and I left the videos down below of my letrozole journey. And I obviously didn't get pregnant on letrozole. There's more videos where I go more in depth about the letrozole. I didn't get pregnant. So when I ended up getting really sick, I ended up being in Arizona for a while, and I lost a lot of weight. I just kind of was very over my endometriosis, and I decided that we were gonna go on Lupron, which, if you don't know what Lupron is, basically is a hormone inhibitor. It kind of stops what your body is doing and does a reset. So that way you can start fresh. But there's also lots of side effects, and they did not sit well with me. They were not my tea. I was not very fond of it, and we stopped the Lupron, and that put us to 2 months ago. And ever since then, we've been talking about adoption, and we really decided that we wanted to adopt. Like, maybe having another baby wasn't for us. It's something that was becoming a stress in my marriage. My marriage was more centered around when are we going to have sex? Like, because we were trying to make this baby, and it wasn't about it being an intimate moment anymore. It wasn't even about, it was like a job. It was very much like a job where, hey, we need to put this aside and we need to stop this in our life and we need to stop doing this because we were trying so hard to get the timing right, and the timing just wasn't happening with letrozole. It wasn't happening naturally. It wasn't happening in ways where it would have gone smoothly. It just caused a lot of stress. So we kind of decided like, hey, let's do adoption. And so we made a whole little adoption page. We let our friends and family know. We did like a mini fundraiser, and something that I think is really, it's a beautiful thing. But we did have a girl reach out, and I talked with her for a couple weeks and things were going really well. And basically it was a scam, and then she tried to scam me with 2 other fake profile accounts, which I knew was her just because coincidentally how she spoke, how she texts, and just overall how she approached me. And so then adoption became a little bit more like for me, and it was something that caused stress and anxiety, and I let it rule the world around me. And so now we're here. Basically, we decided we're gonna try and have a child again naturally and not put as much stress on our relationship. So basically, I have endometriosis, I believe stage 2. I've been told so many different things. Last time I got my laparoscopy, it was, I had no active lesions, but I did have a hole in my uterus. And so that's that, I guess. But basically we're gonna try again. And this time I'm not on letrozole. I am gonna be on progesterone. And the reason I'm gonna be on progesterone is because my egg quality is so poor. Basically what was happening is I was ovulating. So like, here's my little ovaries, and then you ovulate and then it bursts open, and that's how they know you ovulate. And my doctor knew I was ovulating, like he showed it. And he even back 4 months ago thought I was pregnant based on my progesterone and HCG levels. I'll insert a little picture somewhere on this where my levels were where they should be for like the 3rd week of pregnancy, and I ended up not being pregnant. So I am starting over. I am going to be on progesterone to try and see if maybe my egg quality can get a little bit better, and maybe based on the chemical pregnancy, just trying to help the vitality, whatever, of my egg quality, and try that way to get pregnant and stay pregnant. So I know that was a lot of rambling, but that was just like 2020 encapsulated into however many minutes that was, just for background. I am not as active on YouTube. I actually am more active on Instagram, where I post a little bit more about my fertility journey, about adoption, about what our plans are for the future. And now for the Q&A. I asked on Instagram, I put a little ask me anything about our adoption, fertility, infertility journey, and I'm gonna go ahead and answer those. So I had to grab my iPad, that way I can look at the questions and answer them. So if you have stuck through this long and are just genuinely curious about like my life, not really my symptoms or like my story, very weird to say, I don't know how to word this, but I'm gonna answer the questions that I got on Instagram about my journey to a second child. So the first question I got was whether or not we would consider surrogacy. So here's the thing with surrogacy: 1, it's very expensive, and 2, I would pick adoption over surrogacy. I'd pick adoption or foster to adopt over surrogacy for a few different reasons. The first being, the problem that we run into with my fertility is my egg quality. So I would not be able to go in and give them my egg. It would have to be their egg and Mike's sperm. Sorry, I'm a child. And the second thing is Mike's not very comfortable with having a child with someone else. And I know that sounds weird. Like, had it been a situation where I could give my egg and Mike can give his sperm and someone would be the carrier, he'd be a lot more comfortable with that. But Mike doesn't want there to be a baby that is only his. He wants it to be something that we share, whether it be biologically both of ours or a baby that we bring into our home that has no biological relation to us. Third being, it's really expensive. And a lot of people have actually offered, like people I know have offered and said, hey, I will be a surrogate for you. But there's just a little bit more that goes into it. Like we have to pay for their medical procedures and we have to pay for Mike just like in a cup, you know? And we'd have to pay for the surgery to implant because obviously they'd have to do IVF in order to get that little baby in there. So surrogacy is something that's not really our speed, but it is a really good option for others, perhaps. Okay. Sorry, here was the little questions. Okay, so this one says, would you adopt from someone you knew in person, and do you think it would be awkward? But she means awkward. So here's the thing, if that opportunity presented it to us, that would be like the ideal situation for us. Say someone we know is pregnant and they don't want to terminate and they want to give up their baby for adoption. That is something that is the ideal situation for us if we are to adopt. We want to privately adopt, but we don't want to go through adoption agencies because it's upwards of $30,000 and $40,000, and that's just unrealistic for us. So, excuse me. So basically, if it was someone we knew, it would be something like, we wouldn't have to go through all the legalities that there would be doing adoption. There would be some legalities, but because we would be like a close family or friend, the baby, it would be easier to get the baby into our custody. So if that opportunity arises, yes, 100%, wouldn't be awkward. We would work with whoever it was that we knew and make it an enjoyable process for both of us, and hopefully make our lives both a little bit easier, their lives because they're not ready to be a mom just yet, and our lives because we want to add to our family. Okay. The next question is, how did you know you had endometriosis? So I got diagnosed pretty early on in my teens. I had horrible periods where I would bleed for days on end, and then I had horrible ovulation cramping. At the time, I didn't know it was ovulation cramping. It was just a couple weeks after my period, I would then get period-like symptoms without the blood. And then I would get very sick where I'd constantly throw up. My weight would fluctuate. Like I'd go back to my normal weight and then I would lose a lot of weight because I was vomiting so much. And then obviously when I was younger, I think coupled with puberty and the endometriosis, my hormones fluctuated a lot. And I had really bad cystic acne on my back. It was like one of my biggest insecurities in high school. Nobody knew about it because there was not often times where my back was showing. So that was another little symptom of how I knew, I guess. And then of course I had a laparoscopy, which is how you get diagnosed with endometriosis. This one says, would we do IVF? So basically we've done a little bit of some fertility medications. IVF really right now is something that is not on my doctor's radar. And I say my doctor's because right now he wants to make sure that I'm healthier before I go and spend tons of money for procedures. So basically what he means by that is my egg quality is really poor and my endometriosis has been having tons of flare-ups, and he doesn't want to beat a dead horse. So if my body isn't ready for IVF, he doesn't want me to pay for these procedures just to have more negative outcomes. So we're really trying to work on managing my endometriosis flare-ups and making sure that I'm a little bit healthier. So yeah, if that's any indication of how bad my endometriosis is right now, that's why we're not doing IVF. Someone just read Dillard's helps with adoptions and some costs, which is not relevant to me, but there are people whose jobs do help pay for adoptions through a private adoption agency, and that's really awesome because it is upwards of $30,000 and $40,000, which leads me into another question of would we adopt through an agency, and the answer is no. It's just unrealistic for us to spend $30,000 or $40,000 when we can foster to adopt and help out a mother and a child that maybe needs it a little bit more. And $40,000 is a lot of money, and I understand that it pays for legal fees and it pays for the fees of the adoption agency and it pays for the fees of the birth mom, and they want to ensure that you have money to support a child. But realistically, you don't need that much money to adopt a child, and you don't need that much money to prove that you can care for a child. You can care for a child without having a surplus to give. I don't know many people that have upwards of $30,000 or $40,000 in savings, and so yeah, that's just not our journey. Someone else asked, would you adopt from the foster care system? And the answer is yes. So if these next couple months I don't end up getting pregnant, we are basically waiting to see what's going on with my husband's job and where we're going to be at to start the adoption process through foster care. And I know it's very controversial. Like some people say, like if you're going to foster, just foster, like don't go into it with adoption on your mind. But the thing is, the time that we wait for a baby is obviously, that's not an issue. I've waited over a year. In February, had I had that pregnancy stuck, I would have been pregnant, but I'm not. And so waiting is not an issue. I don't have any problem waiting for the foster to adopt system. And the thing is, like this is going to be awful to say, but the reason why a lot of people wait a long time for foster to adopt is that they put circumstances on their foster to adopt. And I think that's incredibly wrong. Like, I don't think you should be very nitpicky if you're wanting to grow your family. So basically what I mean by that is we are open to any race. We are open to any age within the infant age bracket, because we do want them younger than Aurora. And that's just like psychology wise, like that just makes sense to have the age progression. I'm not sure the technical terms on that. We're open to any medical conditions, and we're open to like open or closed dependent on what the state rules in favor of the family, because you do have to consider that when you're adopting, maybe that parents' rights are severed, but they still have grandparents and they still may have other siblings. So that is something that we're open to. So hopefully it won't be a long wait, and if there is a wait for us, it's not an issue. Does Aurora want another sibling? Yeah, so that's like where it's getting very difficult right now is, besides that birth scam thing, there was a lady that said, my dad's friend who just had a niece, and it was very promising, and we reached out to the mom and the mom agreed, and then, you know, things happen, and we had told Aurora, which is my mistake, and now I know not to make that mistake, that she was going to be a big sister. And so now Aurora is asking for a baby sister 24/7. She calls herself sister now. And so yes, very much so, Aurora wants a sibling, which is why we are open to fostering, to adopt, which is why we're open to having a baby biologically, because at the end of the day, it's about doing what's best for the child we already have. And that is making her a sister and growing our family and sharing our love. So I think those are going to be all the questions I'm going to answer. Sorry if this is a long video. Sorry for my absence. I will be a little bit more consistent from here on out, and my next video should be a live ovulation test on progesterone. So thanks for tuning in.